What is going on, guys? Matt Downs with Daily Grind Fantasy Sports to help give you the edge for this NBA 7-game slate. Cannot wait to break it down. If you guys want to be entered into the $25 giveaway that we do every single Friday on stream, please like, subscribe, and also comment your favorite overall play on the slate. We have a nice, juicy slate for you guys. If you guys are brand new to this channel, we provide both free and paid content for all daily fantasy sports across all sports. If you could please show your support by hitting that subscribe button, notification bell, and of course smashing that like button for all of our future NBA content. If you would like to know more about becoming a better DFS player and taking down that big GPP, head over to www.patreon.com/DGFantasy for more information. On Patreon, we give advanced cheat sheets for all DFS sports on DraftKings. These cheat sheets include updated projections, ownership, and our overall favorite plays from slate to slate. We take it a step further by teaching you how to play fantasy sports like a shark, by showing you where the best leverage spots are to put you in the best spots to take down tourneys. Also included is our private Discord chat where you get to talk over the slate with everyone, including our coaches, to help build your lineups. Now let's go ahead and dive right into this NBA 7-game slate, but first you guys know I have to talk about the Patreon success. I know TJ had some more success last night. I actually didn't include his picture because we had so many screenshots sent into the Patreon. Was literally, I think it was like a fourth quarter stretch away from $5,000. TJ, we'll have you talk about that here in just a second. But we also had some League of Legends success. $5 into 100 here last night. 593 points put up overall using the leverage sheet. One of my favorite leverage stacks was SN. Definitely went off. We had a GPP takedown by Elite. Elite, our NBA coach, is also our League of Legends coach. Took down pretty much everything. Of course, he's taking down everything. We had some more success in NBA. This person ended with 301, was his cash line. That put it in a bunch of GPPs as well. Men cashed in all of those as well. And then one more screenshot. Hold on, I need to pull it up on my screen. Had a complete takedown here. $5 in a 75, $5 in a 62. Got 8th place out of 1.2k people, so congrats to all of our Patreon users. TJ, you want to talk about last night real quick? I just want to. No, you don't want to. Okay. Pretty much, he hates the Raptors. That's all he has to say.
I just hate Siakam in the fourth quarter that he had, and I lost like $3,700 because Siakam in the fourth quarter.
Well,
yeah, it's all the Sharks in the lineups that they all have together because they're all fantastic people and use the same optimizer. So, the group of them passed me by 2.5 points. Siakam in that fourth. So,
regardless, he still made money, so we can't complain overall. But again, so close to a takedown. Let's go ahead and talk about this slate, TJ. I'm going to go over briefly about the injury news real quick. Thankfully, we don't have Philadelphia on the slate, or else we'd be having a headache already.
Yeah, I wouldn't.
Right now, Indiana is without their normal injuries, plus Doug McDermott is questionable, so that's something to definitely pay attention to. Russell Westbrook has potential to sit on the slate with his finger injury, and also he doesn't normally play back-to-backs. Against Miami, this should be a competitive game if he does play, so definitely something to be looking at here. We have Atlanta versus Charlotte. Atlanta is without Snell, Dunn, Gallinari, and Rondo. I believe that their full injuries with Capella are back, though. They are priced up. We'll talk about them for GPPs a little bit later because these others still out for Charlotte. For Cleveland, everybody's still out. Plus, Sexton has that questionable tag. If he is ruled out, well, Cleveland's going to have probably a 7-man rotation, so that will be very interesting to look at. Going against Milwaukee, total blowout potential there. We will talk about that here in a little bit. With San Antonio, Eubanks, Weatherspoon, and White are out. Minnesota, Karl Anthony Towns could come back in this game. He is technically questionable, something to pay attention to there. And then with Orlando, the normal injuries. Fournier is expected to play in this game. With Dallas, Trey Burke expected to play, however, he's still questionable. Brunson, Finney-Smith, Porzingis, and Josh Richardson are all out for Dallas. That is a pace down spot, but a ton of usage of minutes to go around. We will talk about that in just a second. And then Portland, Sacramento, nothing interesting going on there. However, that is a pace up spot for both those teams. They're actually the highest over-under on the slate. So, very interesting slate. A lot of different ways we can go. Can't wait to break this down. Let's go ahead and start with Atlanta. Clint Capella still carrying some ownership, 17.9%. By the way, we do have ownership. Thank you, Fantasy Country, for providing that. $7,000 for Clint Capella is priced accordingly, in my opinion. This is a great matchup for him against Bismack Biyombo. Right now, he's slated to play 30 minutes. Trey Young, 9.4K. Price tag keeps dropping, but that's because he has some really good players on his team, and he's not getting the usage that he got last season, 13.5%. John Collins, $7,500, 12.5%. TJ, do you have any interest in these guys for cash or GPP?
I think I might, Matt, but currently not right now, just in terms of the way I'm building with the injury news that we do have. I think there's some better places to attack, but I definitely like this matchup for Atlanta going up against Charlotte. There is some drama going on in Atlanta between John Collins and Trey Young. John Collins was vocal about not liking the way that Trey Young is handling the Atlanta offense. So yeah, I'm not too sure where I want to go currently, Matt. I think that John Collins price tag at 7,500 is intriguing. I think he's been playing a little better as of late against the Knicks and Charlotte. So I think I would potentially have interest there, but for now, I think these are more tournament plays in my eyes.
Yeah, I don't like the price tags on these guys, TJ. It's a pace down spot versus Charlotte. We know Atlanta can definitely get in the groove when they're playing these pace up spots, but again, they're projected to score 116.75 points, but they've shown to not get to that total in the past 3 times, only scoring 94, 108, and 91 points. So definitely a scary team to target here in Atlanta. I'm probably going to avoid them, go to some different spots. We'll go ahead and move on to Charlotte here. Devonte Graham showing the highest ownership, $5,600. What a price decrease he's received. We're used to seeing him at near 7K. 12.5% PJ Washington at 5.9K, and then Gordon Hayward at 8.2K, 8.3% ownership. Do you have any interest in these guys, and obviously a pace-up spot?
Yeah, I think I would have more interest on this side of the ball. LaMelo Ball's a guy that's just been absolutely lights out, Matt, to start the year. Looked good last night going up against his brother at 6,500, got to 40 DraftKings points. It's 6,700 tonight. I really don't hate him again. Good matchup going up against the Atlanta guards. Devonte Graham has looked better as of late. The price has come down immensely, so he's somebody that I'd be interested in at 5,600. I think the guards are the guys that I want to attack when it comes to Atlanta. So potentially a guy like Terry Rozier, but I think I currently have a little more faith in LaMelo Ball and Devonte Graham. Of course, Gordon Hayward's a guy that I've been vocal about all year. Finally had that ceiling game against Atlanta last time out, Matt, where he took 25 shots. So we're seeing that same exact matchup. Did get the price bump to 8,200. So it might be a little bit. Yeah. So, I think I'd have some interest in Hayward too. I'm looking at Charlotte more than I think I'm looking at Atlanta. And I think there's some pretty good plays here.
Right. No, I completely agree. I'm not going to repeat everything you just said. And they're carrying lower ownership for what it's worth against Atlanta. Right. So definitely some leverage there right in the first game. Switching over to Phoenix, 7.1K on Chris Paul. Had a pretty good game last game. I saw him absolutely light it up in the first quarter. I think he ended with like 18 DK points and then finished with 31. So 16.5% on Chris Paul. He's obviously been playing very consistent basketball. DeAndre Ayton, 7,300, and then Devin Booker, $7,900. Do you have any interest in GPPs or cash here?
Honestly, no. I don't like the matchup against Indy. I don't like how Phoenix has been playing in terms of DraftKings scoring. So, no.
I completely agree. Let's move on to Indiana here. We have Oladipo, 11.5%, Sabonis at 10.9%, and then Aaron Holiday next on the list here, 8.4%. TJ, something I want to mention is that these guys actually look good on their sheet every single time. Miles Turner always crushes it. Don't understand why they are so good. I feel like everybody on this team has some ceiling game at some point in time. Malcolm Brogdon broke the slate last time out, 8.4K. I mean, he's only 3.2%. Miles Turner, 2.3%. I personally love these guys for GPP upside just because, again, for the reasons I just said. Do you have any interest in any one of these players?
Yeah, in tournaments for sure. I mean, Malcolm Brogdon's a guy that's been playing absolutely incredible this last week. 54 plus DraftKings points in his last 3 games. The minutes are there. The usage is there. So I'm really impressed with what I've seen from Malcolm Brogdon, especially alongside Oladipo too, to be this consistent. So at 8,400, I think he'll make for a really good tournament play. I think his ownership could come in pretty low. What do you have him currently at?
Who? Oladipo?
No, Brogdon.
Brogdon, 3.2%.
Yeah, so I'm going to like him for tournaments for sure. So yeah, I think there's some pretty interesting tournament plays here. If McDermott's out, that's only some more minutes that get to go to some other guys, maybe like Justin Holiday at 4,500. So we'll have to keep an eye out on that. And Justin Holiday's been playing some pretty good ball too lately. So I think there's some good tournament plays here, Matt. But for cash, I don't think I'm looking at this game.
I completely agree with you. Won't repeat what you just said. Let's move on to some more appealing games. Miami versus Washington. Miami is in a pace-up spot, and Jimmy Butler is currently the second highest ownership, or has the second highest ownership on the entire slate. $7,400. Only got a $100 price increase. I was all over him last slate at 3% ownership. Well, now he's not going to be that low owned. What are your thoughts here for any of these Miami Heat? They're obviously playing in a pace-up spot.
Yeah, I mean, Butler at 7,400 going up against Washington in a pace-up spot. Washington on a back-to-back as well. I obviously love him at his price tag. Looked good against the Celtics. I think he can assert himself just like he did against Boston, against Washington today, or tonight rather. So yeah, at 7,400, he'll probably be one of the chalkier guys on the slate. I really like him at his price tag. He actually rates out to the second highest in terms of DraftKings points per, or value rather, Matt, that we have for the Miami Heat at 7,400. So I do like Butler for cash. I think he's going to be a staple.
Yeah, he's just a superstar that's really low priced. He passes the eye test for sure in the pace up spot. Similar to what Jason Tatum was yesterday against the Washington Wizards. And again, you're looking for a very high floor, and that's what you'll get from Jimmy Butler. Do you have any interest in any one of these other guys? We have Duncan Robinson at $4,700, a shooter, playing 31 minutes, 12.3%. Maybe Adebayo, $8,500. Do you have any interest there?
I think if I'd have to go anywhere, I'd want to see if Olynyk's starting again because his price tag, I mean, it is 5,300. It is coming up a little bit. He's somebody I want to keep an eye on. If he can get, 28 minutes, I think he can pay off that price tag pretty easily. Bam will be interesting going up against Thomas Bryant down low at 8,500. I just think if I'm starting with Butler, I'm going to want to go up to one of these studs that we're going to talk about here soon. And there's some other value elsewhere. So I think I'm going to take Butler and run, but I could see myself grabbing another Miami Heat, maybe Duncan Robinson. Again, shooters in high-paced games, in high over-unders are things that we love to target, and he is very cheap at 4,700. Guy that can definitely get hot from three. Just did it against the Celtics, so potential there. So I think there's some potential here for Miami. But for now, I think I'm taking Jimmy Butler and running, but we'll see how the day pans out.
Yeah, it's kind of cool to see because they are actually the third lowest total on the slate, which is actually pretty surprising. Right. A team that plays against Washington, you can assume they're going to be the highest on the slate. So we're not even getting to the best games yet. So that's why I like this slate. There's a lot of different options here. Let's go ahead and switch over to Washington. Russell Westbrook, some serious potential to sit in this game. I'm going to lean towards he does. I mean, and when you throw in the finger entry too, Bradley Beal all the way, $9,700. I'm pretty sure that's one of the most expensive we've seen him throughout his entire career. I mean, what a beast Bradley Beal has been, even with Westbrook. What are your thoughts here? We'll go ahead and assume that Westbrook does sit. Do you include Bradley Beal into your lineups?
Yeah, 100%. Beal with Westbrook off the floor this year gets a 2% usage bump. He's a 1.6 fantasy point per minute and a 38.8% usage rate, Matt. So I would have him pegged if Westbrook does sit at 60.3 DraftKings points. So easily paying off that 9,700 price tag. So yes, if Westbrook is out, I mean, just look at the shot attempts he's taken in these last couple games. And some of those are with Westbrook on the floor, obviously.
It's crazy.
So if Westbrook is off, then yes, I'm locking in Beal.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. The only hesitation I have is it's a slight pace down spot versus the Miami Heat defense. But again, we have to see what the ownership looks like. You can only expect that Bradley Beal's ownership is going to be relatively high. And again, 1.6 fantasy points per minute, that's like Doncic numbers, okay? And you see Doncic now at 11K. So you're getting a 9.7K price tag for 11K production. Really do think that is the move if Westbrook is held out. But again, that is pending. You guys have to go ahead and join the live stream a little bit later for those late-breaking injury news. That will start at 7, so we should get that injury news on stream. All right, let's switch over to Cleveland. What a mess. I don't even want to talk about these guys because it just gives me a headache. Andre Drummond, $8,700, is actually pretty chalky, 24.4%, and that's assuming that Sexton plays. This game does have some serious blowout potential. Sexton, if he does play, is expected to play a lot of minutes. What are your thoughts on this team? I mean, are you going to avoid these guys because of the blowout potential? Or are you going to insert Drummond? And Drummond does have a good matchup, I guess, technically, but these guys, I mean, it's already a 13-point spread. So what are your thoughts?
Yeah, it's tough to say. I kind of feel like we're in the same territory as the Orlando Magic last night. So if you're playing a guy like Drummond, you could see a Vooch type performance where he doesn't touch the floor in the fourth quarter, but still gets to value in those 30-ish minutes that he would play even before the game blows out. So I think there's some interest here if Sexton is out. If Sexton is in, I will not be going to Cleveland.
Yeah.
But if he's out, Matt, then yeah, I think it brings some of these guys into play. If we look up the popcorn machine from last game when Sexton was out, it was a 9-man rotation, but all 5 starters played more than 35 minutes.
It's crazy. Yeah.
Nance playing 34.8 minutes. So if you want to round up, he played 35 minutes. We had Okoro play 39 minutes. We had Drummond play 37. We had Dotson play 35. And then we had Osman play 38. And Seti's usage was off the charts. It was 26%, which is the highest that he's seen all year. And that's with, Sexton and Garland being out.
Yep.
So yeah, I want to. I mean, Drummond had a 32% usage, which is crazy for a big man. So I want to see what's going on with Sexton. If Sexton is out, I'm going to have some interest here. If he's in, I'm probably going to avoid them because I would be afraid of a blowout.
If Sexton is out, I might have Andre Drummond as a last piece. But again, we got to be chasing these over-unders on the slate. All of these over-unders are really, really high, and this is not one of those games. Milwaukee technically playing in a pace down spot. Let's go ahead and move on to them. Do you have any interest? I guess I'll just say for tournaments here.
Middleton and Giannis always, but besides that, no. Bobby Portis is an interesting piece at 5,400. Yeah, he's been playing well off the bench. Didn't do so against Utah last game, or yesterday rather. But yeah, if I'm looking anywhere for tournaments, it's going to be spending up for Giannis, spending up for Middleton.
And again, the question is this game going to stay close? Because if it does, you see what Giannis can do. He's going to be a great pivot off of Luka Doncic, which we'll talk about here in just a bit, off of nearly a third of the ownership. So definitely like him as a pivot option. Moving on to my Spurs here, we have DeRozan, the highest owned on the slate. I don't get that. I get it's a pace-up spot, but it's also with Aldridge. I think he's safe, but I don't think he's as safe as some of these other options that we've already talked about or that we will talk about. I think Jimmy Butler's a better play, honestly, just in a better pace-up spot, and he has a higher usage than DeRozan with all of these emerging point guards and guard play from San Antonio. 28% owned. I do like DeRozan. I just don't know if I'm going to be locking him in cash. DeJounte Murray, 24.4%, also pretty chalky. Again, this is a pace-up spot for Minnesota, so I get the ownerships. I just don't know if they're as obvious as some of these other options. TJ, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, Minnesota doesn't play defense. I think that's my main thesis from this game. So I think there could be some sneaky plays here, Matt, for the Spurs. I'd be surprised if any of these guys actually do show up as one of the higher owned players on the slate. So I think that DeRozan ownership should fluctuate a little bit and come back down to earth. But yeah, I mean, Derek White's off the floor. They make for some interesting tournament plays, I think. I mean, DeRozan's a 1.21 fantasy point per minute with Derek White off the floor. DeJounte Murray's a 1.1 fantasy point per minute with him off the floor. So yeah, I mean, they play well, but I think they're more cash plays when Aldridge is off the floor. Again, I think you think DeRozan is he has a safe floor, and I agree with you there at 7,800. Wouldn't be surprised if he gets you that 40 DraftKings points. I just don't see him like getting north of 50, which is what you would want if you're playing tournaments.
Right.
So yeah, this game could easily shoot out against Minnesota. It's just, will it stay competitive? Minnesota's a mess.
Right.
We could see Cat back tonight, which would be interesting. He's currently going to go through shoot around and then see how he feels. So we could see him. But yeah, more tournament plays here for me. No cash interest. But I will, if DeRozan's ownership stays high, I'd be very surprised by that. So we'll have to wait and see how that goes throughout the day.
He had a 20.9% usage in his last game, which is actually pretty low with Aldridge back. But yeah, the Spurs are officially the best team in the NBA now, beating the Clippers and Lakers, the two previous best teams. So so this definitely does have blow up potential. You're playing the best team against the worst team. Spurs are easily the best team now in the NBA. Minnesota, moving on. If these guys stay competitive, definitely do have some interest here. Malik Beazley actually carrying 20.7% ownership. Hasn't really done that well as of late, though. 6.1K price tag. I don't get that ownership. That should fluctuate as well. I'm going to stop talking about this team. If Karl Anthony Towns does play, I'm off everybody. If he doesn't play, yes, I do have some interest here. Do you have any interest in tournaments, TJ?
D'Lo.
Got it.
Yeah, he's the guy I'm going to go back to. He's been aggressive as of late, which is what I talked about after that Denver game. He was as aggressive against Portland, but again, that game blew out. So that's always the potential with Minnesota here, is if they can keep it competitive. And if they can, it's going to be most likely because of D'Lo. Obviously, Malik Beazley chips in too. But yeah, if Cat's in, then I'm off all these guys. So we're going to have to wait and see what goes on with Cat.
Right, and they should be. It's a 5-point spread. So if Cat does play, I think it will be even more competitive. Hopefully. All right, let's move on to Orlando. Orlando with the same amount of injuries. However, Fournier is back, which means the price tags have not adjusted for that quite yet, because Terrence Ross, 6.4K. We have Vucevic at $8,800, which is still pretty expensive. Cole Anthony, $5,500. What are your thoughts on this team? Are you fading these guys, at least in cash?
Are we sure that Fournier's back?
It's a green on RotoWire, so that means he's more probable than anything.
Yeah. All right, so I think that's good. So when it comes to Miami, I mean, when it comes to Orlando, I don't know why I said Miami. Well, Miami is Florida, so is Orlando. So I guess
there you go.
with Aaron Gordon being back as well, I think that's good. I just want this game to stay somewhat competitive. And, with all their guys being out last night with Fultz and Aminu and Michael Carter-Williams and Gordon and Fournier, they got absolutely torched by Houston. So with Aaron Gordon being back and then potentially Evan Fournier, I think this game could be a little bit more competitive against Dallas, who is missing some key pieces as well. So as long as this game can stay competitive, Matt, I'll have some interest in a guy like Vooch at 8,800. Gets an uptick with Fultz off the floor and Michael Carter-Williams. The only thing we would be worried about, obviously, is a potential blowout because that is a pretty tough price tag to pay off. But if the game does stay competitive and Vooch can see his 34-ish minutes, then I really like him to pay that price tag off at 8,800. I could have some interest potentially in a guy like Terrence Ross, but we'll have to wait and see what is going on with Fournier because he still technically is questionable. I know he's more of a probable side. Or he's green in Roto, but I haven't seen any reports on him.
Yeah.
So I want to make sure that he's in before I do calculate my numbers. The one guy that I would be interested in is definitely going to be Vooch at 8,800. But I think that would be it.
Yeah, thankfully for this slate, we have no late night hammers to wait for. We saw Anthony Davis randomly get ruled out. At least what I think anyway. Anything's possible these days. Let's move on to the Dallas picture, which we do know the injuries as of right now, and Trey Burke is expected to play 27 minutes. This is where the chalk will come from. It's Dallas chalk night. I'm going to let you take the floor. I think Doncic is in a great spot, averaging 1.7 fantasy points per minute. He's going to be a near lock. Who else are we looking at, TJ?
Yeah, so Luka with all these guys off the floor. Brunson, Dorian Finney-Smith, Porzingis, Josh Richardson. He gets a 8.5% usage bump already onto his massive usage. A 1.68 fantasy point per minute, like you just alluded to, and a 45.2% usage rate, which is, I think that's higher than anything
that's higher than Harden
last year with Harden, with like Westbrook off the floor, or before that with CP3 off the floor the previous year. I remember Harden being around like 43-ish%. So 45% is the highest that I've seen. So Luka's going to be a lock for me at 11K. It's going to be a lock for probably everybody. Kleber is an interesting play as well, Matt. 4,300 showing 31 projected minutes. He gets a 1% usage bump. He's a 0.85 fantasy point per minute. So I have him pegged as a 6.2, currently 26.6 DraftKings points. So I think that's a good value. Trey Burke, obviously, if he's good to go at 3K, he's projected at 31 minutes if he can go. He's a 0.99 fantasy point per minute with all those guys off the floor. So he's definitely interesting. And then Boban, Matt, if you want to take the chance at 3K, he's projected at 15 minutes. He's a 1.5 fantasy point per minute. It's 26% usage rate. And that's a pretty healthy sample size, too. It was like 150 minutes. Yeah. So I have him pegged at 22.3 DraftKings points. I wouldn't advise taking him in cash, but like if you want to go Trey Burke and him and have 6K between two guys, like I guess you can. But there's some interest here everywhere. Tim Hardaway at 6K, I think, is still in play. Willie Cauley-Stein's been giving him some pretty decent minutes at 4K. I'd be interested to see how they utilize him with Dorian Finney-Smith off the floor. James Johnson at 3,200. So I think you can go really anywhere here, Matt. But Luka, Trey Burke, and Kleber are the three guys that I'm eyeing as of now for cash locks.
Another thing we have to consider is you're taking off a volume shooter in Josh Richardson, and you're now giving even more shots to Doncic. He only shot 25 and 22 times, and I can honestly expect TJ, he's going to shoot 30 times in this game. He could potentially shoot 30 times. Yeah. So if you look at his DK production in the last two games, 71.5 and 77.25, and he's only shooting 22 times. Sign me up for Doncic. He's a do-it-all player, especially in this matchup versus Orlando, and it's actually expected to be relatively competitive, only a 6-point spread. I don't know if I believe that yet, but again, I'm going to trust Vegas here. If this is competitive, Doncic is going to go for 80 DK points, or could. So
yeah, I think he could go for 80.
Yeah,
I think tonight would be a safe night for a Luka floor 80.
A floor 80, yeah. That's an accurate projection. The first time I put in his projection, he was projected to score 72 points. So for what that's worth, guys, Doncic should be an automatic lock into all your contests, and Giannis being one of the pivot spots there for pay-up options. Last but not least, let's go ahead and talk about the highest over-under on the slate, and none of these guys are showing ownership. 10.4% ownership on Nurkic, on Lillard 10.1%, Derrick Jones 7.6%. All these guys are so low. I'm guessing just tournaments, TJ.
I don't know, Matt. I'm gonna have to wait and see how my builds go out. Watching Sacramento try and play defense last night against Toronto was putrid. That game was horrible in terms. If you like defense, that game was horrible to watch. It was fun offensively. It was like an all-star game almost. But yeah, Sacramento doesn't play any defense at all. So Portland coming in, if this game can stay competitive, Matt, like Dame at 9,500, we just saw him play against Minnesota in a blowout, only played 29 minutes and went for 67 DraftKings points, which is higher than, 2 fantasy points per minute. So yeah, Dame at 9,500, if he's going to show 10% ownership, is probably going to be my favorite tournament play. I think you can get any of these guys in tournaments and they're going to be interesting. Cantor's been playing really well. I think the Sacramento Bigs are somebody you can attack. So 14 minutes for Cantor. He went for 27 DraftKings points against Minnesota. If he can get 18 to 20 minutes against Sacramento, I think he can potentially get, 35 DraftKings points. So I have some serious interest in Portland for tournaments. I wouldn't be surprised. Like if I could get Dame in cash, I wouldn't hate it. But I just don't think it's feasible. If Westbrook is out, I'm going to make Beal a priority, and then Luka and Jimmy Butler. So I don't think getting Dame in there as well would be a possibility. But it's something I want to keep an eye on because I think he's in a fantastic spot.
Damian Lillard is the man. Won me my huge takedown last year, and he's always carrying such low ownership because of that late night hammer. They obviously play in Portland and the Western Conference teams over there. So 10.1% ownership is just criminal for this high of an over-under. I completely agree with everything you just said. Sacramento also have some interest because we know Portland doesn't play too much defense either, so this should really be a back-and-forth game. Beal actually showing the highest owned, 9.9% owned, just because of his price tag, $3,600. I know he's not supposed to get minutes, but I have more interest in somebody like Holmes. Also Barnes. I will continue to talk about Barnes until he finally, he's getting at least 35 to 40. Yeah, he finally is coming up. I'll continue to talk about him until he hits that $7K price tag. Corey Joseph, $3,900 playing some minutes. Do you have any interest in any one of these guys?
I really like what I saw from Halliburton last night against Toronto. I know it was a crazy offensive game, but at 5,400, he looked very good off the bench for Sacramento going up against Toronto. So if he's going to continue to see like 30, 32 minutes, then I'll have some interest in him at 5,800 against against Portland. Yeah, Matt, we keep talking about Harrison Barnes. The price tag's starting to creep up a little bit. He's at 6,400. I still think he's a decent play for tournaments. De'Aaron Fox, 8,300. I think he'll be a good tournament play. So I'm going to have a lot of interest in this game, especially when it comes to tournaments. And I wouldn't be surprised, honestly, if I had one of these guys in my cash lineup on either side of this game.
Here's the question, though. Is De'Aaron Fox, I'm going to say that right, De'Aaron Fox going to play actually 32 minutes because he did have a minute restriction last game, which is why Halliburton played so many minutes. However, Halliburton looks amazing. He looks like a starter. So, yeah, that's the big question. If De'Aaron Fox is going to be playing a minute restriction, then yes, I have even more love for all these players. And I think that will cover the entire slate, TJ. Here's what we're going to say for cash locks. Lock in Dallas, some players from Dallas. Kleber, I think, is in play. Trey Burke and also Doncic. Same thing with Jimmy Butler for Miami. He just passes the eye test. Very cheap and playing in a pace-up spot. And then we will talk about some of the San Antonio players a little bit later on stream just because they are playing in a pace-up spot if they're carrying higher ownership than we expect. So that's where you should start your builds as of right now. Of course, all this will go out the window a little bit later in the day once somebody is ruled out, because that's what happens. Feel free to join us on the live stream, guys. If you did enjoy this video, please do hit that subscription button, notification bell, and of course smash that like button for all of our future NBA content. With all that being said, have a great NFL Saturday, and let's cash.
See you guys.